Without further ado, Miss Katharine Hepburn, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Gloria, and remember 30 minutes.
That's right. We only have 30 minutes.
I've got rehearsal tomorrow.
Yes, I know.
After last night, you know.
I know.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Good.
So that's your seat.
This is mine.
And that's your water.
Well, that's
yes,
very
that
kind
is your
of
water.
Well, thank you. Now, as we agreed, I can only give you this short amount of time. Have you all seen the play? Oh, well, of course you will. We just had our first preview last night. We open in 2 days. It's called The West Side Waltz by Ernest Thompson, who wrote On Golden Pond. Now, oh, stop for a moment. Excuse me, your name again, Neil, is it? Mr. Neil? Mr. Neil. Is this your lighting source? I mean, is this it? I see. Well, all right.
I think you need to move that lamp back a little.
Could we move
Yeah,
this
I think
around?
It's sort of hanging right over
Oh,
your
that's
face.
good. It's
Yes.
very quaint, isn't it? Yes. Looks like my apartment on East 49th Street. And this, I've got to put my legs up, you know.
Yes. I know, they're gorgeous, aren't they?
They're beautiful, but they're terribly large. Could we put them back here? No. We don't want an electrical incident.
Okay.
They're fine right there, right? They're very beautiful, wonderful. Oh, well, that's done. Now, where was I? Oh, Ernest
open in
Thompson.
2 days.
Well, I took your questions and I made my notes. So
good.
Ernest Thompson approached me when we were filming On Golden Pond. He asked me to consider the role of Margaret Mary in the West Side Waltz. Now, she is a former concert pianist who is now of a certain age, and she has a neighbor who would like to move in with her to save money on the rent. Now, this part has this extraordinary challenge of pretending to play the piano live to pre-recorded tape music. If you see what I mean, I'm not actually playing the piano. Now, the woman who plays my neighbor, she has it much worse. Dorothy Loudon plays the role. She plays the violin. We practice every day at my apartment in Turtle Bay, me with the piano and her with the violin, and, well, I'm afraid we may have put too much emphasis on this aspect of the play. By that I mean, we had a hell of a time of it last night. Now, I shouldn't say me, I should say we. Mostly because when you work in the theater, you are an ensemble. It's all of us together. Well, we were 35 minutes into the run. First time, mind you, first preview. First time out in front of a live audience. All of a sudden I realize we're in Act 2, Scene 1. We should be in Act 1, Scene 3. We're all muddled up. So I said, well, stop, bring the curtain down. Well, the audience, of course, got very nervous, and I went to the front of the stage and I said, this, with your kind permission, we're going to start over from the beginning and get it right, if that's all right with everyone. And they all agreed, and I said, bring the curtain down. And I said, this is the first time we've been out in front of an audience, new play, etc., and the curtain is not coming down. And after an embarrassing amount of time, and the 14th, bring the curtain down, I declared, I'm afraid the stagehands must be having their sandwiches down. I'm afraid there will be a few people who won't be working the show tomorrow. Well, they bring the curtain up. They should be able to bring it down on cue as well.
Now,
What else?
you said that when you're on the stage that you're part of an ensemble, and that it's a
Well, when
team
you
effort,
have been
so-
on stage as long as I have, you have the right and the responsibility to save the ship if it's going over, right? Someone has to do it. How could we have gone on? Anyway, excuse me.
No,
what did you
no,
want
I'm
to
glad
know
you said
next?
that. It's a rarity. We don't see people take charge like that on stage.
Well,
But
you'd
you
have
said
to be
you-
a bloody idiot if you didn't, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Go right down and crash like that? What? Do you know, I heard one of those method actors once. It was ridiculous. He was in a play, I believe at the Guthrie Theater, and a gun went off or something, and it wasn't supposed to go off right away, and it did. And you know what he bloody did? He died. Beautifully. And everyone went home.
I think I've heard that story. I think it might be a bit apocryphal, but
Well,
I won't trust it.
apocryphal or not, the point is you must take control when things are out of control.
It's true, and you've actually done quite a bit of theater. We think often of you mostly as a film actress, but you have a lot of plays under your belt.
Oh,
right?
please. I have been on stage so much. I have a bit of a history with the theater. I went to Hollywood, of course, but my background and my early training was in the theater, and I know how terribly wrong things can go. I was fired from my first job. As a matter of fact, I was fired for 4 times later after that. I think you wanted to know about the Big Pond. Well,
Right.
I'll tell you about it. It was my first real role, the Big Pond. And it was in Great Neck, of all places. I was hired to understudy Lucille Nicholas. Well, after a day or two, they had me read. Suddenly, I was the leading lady with nothing but sheer confidence and ego. I really was terrified. The first day I showed up for the first performance, 10 minutes before half hour, not good. When I got out on the stage and I started performing, I got a few laughs. Overconfidence flooded in. Next thing you know, my voice went up to the rafters. Too high, too fast. Apparently, well, to everyone except me, you couldn't understand a word I was saying. Well, I left the theater that night. No one said a word to me. The next day, as I was about to go for the matinee, I got a telephone call from Frances Robinson Duff, who was my vocal coach and confidant. When I got there, I was worried I'd be late again for the matinee, second show. Well, Frances looked at me and I looked at her, and when I saw her very long and serious face, I knew, I've been fired. Oh, how humiliating. They hired Lucille back and offered me the understudy job. I said no. I went back to Connecticut with my tail tucked between my legs to my family. Well, do you know that within 2 days I received not 1 but 2 telephone calls from J.J. Schubert and Arthur Hopkins? They saw me and they thought I was good. That led to other work. You see, if you don't like the weather, stick around. Like in New England, stick around, it'll change. You see how things can change, just like that.
Now, you are back on Broadway, so that
Yes.
here you're of an early failure. Instant turnaround, that seems to be a theme of your life. And here you are back on Broadway after a long career in Hollywood. And why did you decide that you wanted to be an actor in the first place? What was it that propelled you onto the stage from this Connecticut stronghold of your family?
Well, I didn't want to be a child. I didn't want to be an actress as a child, although I had a little theater that I made out of a wooden box. It was green, and it had wooden slats cut into it every half inch or so, and I could stand the scenery and the little characters there, and it did have a curtain, which I could open and close. But you know, I got into some trouble as a child in Fenwick and in Hartford. I didn't know I was going to be a performer. I just knew I could break into people's houses just because I could. I had no fear. I wasn't there to steal anything. My friend Allie and I, we would break in just to break in. It's a good thing I found the theater eventually, because I might have ended up in jail. But, you see, it all came down to this. When I was privileged, I was. There were many opportunities open to me. I could have been a doctor, a surgeon, like my father. He was a urologist. I could have been an athlete. I loved golf. I loved tennis. I loved all sports, and I was very good at them. I could have gone in that direction. And my mother, who was a tremendous influence on me, my mother didn't really care what I did, just as long as I didn't settle to be a nursemaid to the next generation of kiddies. She went to Bryn Mawr, and she wanted me to go, and I did. Now, I was very nervous, very awkward. I wasn't used to going to school. After my dear brother Tom died, and I was quite young, they didn't force me to go back to school. I was a bit traumatized. So when I got to Bryn Mawr, I was not used to being around people. Well, after a little bit of time, and I floated around, I was finding myself. We did that a lot, didn't we, as youngsters? We found ourselves. Don't lose yourself, find yourself again. I got together with some people who did plays. And I thought that was just wonderful. We laughed a lot, we had a lovely time. And then I did Pandora in The Woman in the Moon at Bryn Mawr. Oh, Pandora was a wonderful role. She sort of, her emotions were connected to the planets. So I was warlike under Mars and loving under Venus. And I had this long red hair. I was very tall and thin. And I wore a white Grecian robe. I was barefoot. I made quite a militant Pandora. Well, I made quite a hit with the faculty there. And a few people saw me and thought that she's got something. That's when I knew. I knew then at Bryn Mawr. I didn't know that before, but I knew that was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the greatest actress ever. And I set my sights. Now, of course, saying that to my father, I might as well have said I wanted to be a streetwalker. Being in the theater was, you had to be good. And my father said to me, well, I'll help you out, but you've got to be serious about this. The rest is history, I suppose.
Well, I don't know that things came quite that easily just by making the decision to be an actor. I think there might have been a few pitfalls along the way. You did mention being fired.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you've got to do something to support yourself in life, right? Most of us have to support ourselves. You better damn well find something that's fascinating so you're not bored out of your mind. And that's what I found. The theater never bored me. Film never bored me. There was always one new thing coming, right? Mm-hmm. You don't sit around all day and get up to be on Broadway and win Tonys and win Academy Awards. You work hard. You buck up.
So I am just going to go back to what I was saying before, which is that it didn't all come that easily, right? You said you were fired and...
Am I interrupting you too much?
No, darling.
I just want to see what that sounded like.
Oh, okay. I've been dying to do this,
You have
actually.
sparkly lights all behind you too, Gloria. Did you know that?
Yes, because I'm special.
Yes, you are. She's very good,
I've been
by the way.
wanting to do this for since we sat down.
Oh, thank
just
you.
to lower it a little and...
Oh, thank you.
then we can it'll actually be of some use up here. There you go.
Oh. That's why she gets the big bucks.
I'm going to say this again, you were fired. How many of us knew that the great Katharine Hepburn was fired? Not once, but how many times?
4.
4 times. Would you like to talk about that?
Oh,
I mean,
well,
you can look back on it now and it doesn't matter because you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, but for those of us mere mortals who may still be struggling, it's nice to know that there are people who have overcome some difficulties. So.
Well, Leslie Howard had me fired in the animal kingdom. Why? Because I was exactly 1 1/4 inch taller than he was. He called me a beanpole and he said, I can't work with anyone taller than me. Oh my God. No, the truth is, I was fired because I was not good. That is the reality. You are usually fired if you're not good.
So it only took four times for you to be good then, right? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, this being tall was a big problem, you know.
In Hollywood.
Well, I wasn't that tall, but I had a pair of secret weapon killer high heels made for me. I towered over those men, especially in Hollywood. MGM, oh, I just looked down at them. Gave me a lot of power. It really worked, you know, it really did. Well, not with Leslie Howard, no, it didn't work with him.
So what was the lowest point in your career? I know that I've heard some stories about difficulties that you have had, either in film or theater. What was the lowest point?
I had quite a few low points in my career. But that's life, isn't it? You get up and you go on. I think that you asked me about the lake. Oh, my relationship with the theater hit rock bottom. It was 1933 in the Lake. This was a play that was produced by Jed Harris. Jed Harris. I just like saying that name because he's like a poisonous snake. This man was disagreeable, overbearing, producer, director. I nearly lost my mind and my confidence for a bit. I went right back to my Great Neck days with my voice going up, high, high, high. Oh, knowing people were out there watching me was enough to just, oh. Well, I was a miserable failure. I went back to Frances Robinson Duff. Frances had helped me before with my voice, and now she helped me again. And that saved me. I finally pulled myself together and got through it. But we had the ridiculous, I know you all want to hear it, so I'll say it. Oh, the calla lilies are in bloom again. Such a strange flower. Suitable for any occasion. I carried them on my wedding day. Now I place them here. Oh, God, who talks like that?
Apparently you do.
Well, thank God nobody else does.
Well, those days are long gone because you've not only conquered that, but you've been on Broadway more than once. You're back on Broadway, so this is not your Broadway debut. When was the last time you were on Broadway?
But you know, I just thought of something about the lake that was really difficult. You asked the rock bottom moment.
Uh-huh.
Dorothy Parker.
Oh, right.
Tremendous one-line review. Run to the Martin Beck Theatre to watch Katharine Hepburn run the gamut of emotion from A to B. That about, if I wasn't going to give up the business then, I never would. What did you ask me, dear? I know it's here. What did you ask me?
Right.
Was I recently? Oh,
I know
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
In A Matter of Gravity. Look it up, son.
But you've kept busy, so this is not the fact that you are now again on Broadway in the West Side Waltz is not anything in particularly special, right? You've been working steadily either in film or
television
theater.
too.
Yeah,
television
too. Right.
I was very, very. Let's say I had a negative feeling about television as a new medium, but some of my most wonderful moments, really, The Corn is Green, Shot in Wales. Oh, I love that. I tried to do all my stunts, but I fell off my bicycle a couple of times, and I thought, well, that's it, old girl. Can't waste their time. Let somebody else do it. But I cried. I was very upset. And then, of course, Love Among the Ruins with Sir Lawrence. I loved him. But, you know, being in the theater, being on Broadway, being in a play, is really, it's different than a film. You're a part of a group. It's a group, it's a community, and you're part of it.
Do you have a favorite role? Do you
Oh.
want to know what your favorite role is?
Well, I had many, many wonderful parts. I mean, I love Little Women, of course, but in 1938, I was labeled queen of box office poison. Not just box office, I was queen of box office. I had flop, 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 flop. Well, I thought, let me get out of my contract, which I did. I bought myself out of my RKO contract. and avoided doing a film called Mother Carries Chickens. Can you imagine? Mother Carries Chickens. And I thought, I better get back to New York and get myself into a play right away. Well, Philip Barry, who wrote Holiday, which I had done the year before on loan to Columbia, approached me with an idea for a film loosely based on my family, The Philadelphia Story. Oh, I went mad. I worked with Phil at Fenwick, my home in Connecticut, and up in Maine at his place, and we whipped it together, and we made a tremendous hit on Broadway. I love Philip Barry. He was smart, and Tracy Lord, well, you know. She remains absolutely one of my top roles. Now, Howard Hughes, who wanted to marry me at the time, Howard thought we better secure the rights to the film version because we knew every actress in Hollywood would be vying to play Tracy Lord and do. Well, I made damn sure it was mine. Well, thanks to Howard. I loved Howard, but I didn't want to marry Howard Hughes. Oh no. Why Tracy Lord?
Yes, why?
I knew that was on your mind.
Yes.
Why? Because she is everything I love and detest about myself. She is strong and vulnerable, and sometimes at the same time. And I got to be very athletic in that film, too.
And you got to be with Cary Grant.
Oh, well, Cary Grant.
And
Archibald Leach really is his name.
This is true.
Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that.
He would kill me, but we're not going to worry about it.
Yes. And you decided to tackle Shakespeare rather late in the game, some might say.
Well, late in the game, in my 50s. Do you really think actresses at 13 were playing Juliet? No. Many actresses older tackled these Shakespearean roles. So I was, I was in good shape, and I was in my 50s. Yes, I did Rosalind in As You Like It, and I did Portia in The Merchant of Venice. And we did several seasons at Stratford in Connecticut. And, funny story. Do you all remember Jonathan Frid, Dark Shadows? You know, that vampire soap opera in the afternoon that everyone ran home to see. Jonathan Frid was a young, classically trained Shakespearean actor from Canada. When I was doing Portia in The Merchant of Venice, he was a spear holder, as we call them, just holding there, no lines. He was young, he was so nervous. Well, he had a visual cue for me. In other words, he would walk across from stage left to right, and that was my cue to enter. One night he missed it. Oh. Well, I knew it, and I wasn't worried. It didn't mess me up at all because I memorized the whole play like one long poem. So I know everyone's lines. Well, he was skulking around the theater the next day. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He avoided me at all costs. Well, I finally ran smack into him. And he said, Miss Hepburn, I think he thought I would fire, And I said, oh, please. I would never depend upon you to make my entrance. I know exactly. I memorized the whole line. But I said, don't do it again. He went on to have some fairly good success, I believe.
So the difference, I think sometimes we think about with film and theater that there's a different approach to the acting, but you've played you've played some classical roles here, but also some historical roles. I mean, do you do research on these characters, or? Oh,
of course. I mean, when I played in The Lion in Winter, Helena Aquitaine, I read everything I could get about her. And I don't think Peter O'Toole appreciated that, but he was such a jokester. I mean, did I ever tell you the story about him?
Which one?
Well, it's a lesson in not taking yourself too seriously. We were shooting in France in a castle, a beautiful Montmajour castle, and we shared the same makeup person. So I was way up. I was shooting that day, so I was way up in my dressing room, and Peter was playing cards or something down in his dressing room, but the makeup man was in there with him. So I was getting mad. I said, "Where is my makeup man?" "Oh, he's with Peter again." Okay. So I went looking for them, and I was really and on my way over there, I started to laugh because I thought, look at you, you're going to kill him. Well, I got there, and I biffed him. I just bopped him right in the face. And oh my God, I said, "If you're going to steal my makeup man, you better let me know." Okay. So later we were shooting a scene together, and he showed up on set in a almost a full body cast. I mean, he had his head bandaged and his arm in a sling, like I had beaten him up, and I just biffed him, that's all. But whatever, he was funny, and boy, oh, those eyes. Oh, if you think they were something on camera, they were really something in person. Peter.
One of my favorite films, The Lion.
Yes, The Lion in Winter. I loved your father, I felt.
Yes, I know.
What else, dear? How much time do I have left? Because I do have to deal with this. This Dorothy Loudon is wonderful with the violin. I'm not so great with the piano. And the thing is, my fingers are hurting me a bit. And I know that's working because I'm, doing this, but go on, dear.
Do we have a time check? Are we within our? Where's Neil?
Mr. Neil,
Mr.
there
Neil.
he is.
Continue.
Thank you. Who's your favorite director? I mean, we.
Oh, George Cukor.
Okay.
There's no question. No, he's it's because of him I went to Hollywood. I did this play on Broadway called The Warrior's Husband, where I played Queen Antiope. Now you have to remember, I had long, lean legs, and they took some pretty provocative shots, and I thought, Mel, that's why the Hollywood people came calling, because they saw these pictures of me. I was really exotic. And George Cukor thought, well, let's give her a screen test. So I did some things in New York. Well, he took a chance on me, and I went out and did A Bill of Divorcement with John Barrymore. First film. Then I did Morning Glory, which I won the Academy Award for. Excuse me. Well, George didn't know what to think of me when I arrived, because I had to take the train all the way from New York to LA. And when I got to Los Angeles, an iron filing on the train had gone into my eye, and my eye was big and red, and I had this outfit on that I thought, of course, was fabulous, but they thought I looked like a freak. And with my red hair, my freckles were out, I was really pathetic. Well, right away they said, let's get you into makeup and hair and see what we can do. And John Barrymore, he was something. He said to me, "Oh, I drink too, dear. I can take care of that very quickly. Come to my trailer." Well, guess what? He also wanted other things in the trailer, but that never happened. Oh, no. My father would have, But George, you asked me about
yes.
George. George did something to me once, and this is why I love him so much. I was completely throwing myself into these roles and trying to be the best I could be and be fascinating all the time. And one day we were shooting, and all of a sudden this fishing pole came out. Dangling on the end of it was a large ham. And he was trying to tell me something. Can you imagine? You're trying to work, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of your eye, you see a ham. But we had a few moments where we fought, because I always stood up for myself and my opinions. Perhaps I did a little too much of that and might have alienated people, but I didn't care, because I knew that the final product was what we were all striving for. So if I, got a little feisty, well, too bad.
Well, I would
But
say
I love George.
the proof is in the pudding. Certainly you have a body of work that
Gloria,
that
you
attests
have
to
these
that.
quaint sayings that
Yes.
are very charming. Have you been working on them?
I have, just for
The
you.
proof is in the pudding. Have you had my brownies?
I have, actually.
You have?
I have.
You know, I do make brownies, and I can tell you what the secret is if you'd like to know. It's nothing that has to be under lock and key. But people always ask me about my brownies. Very little flour. That's the secret. Very little flour. You should try them.
I have tried them.
All right.
I
Well,
did-
try making them, perhaps.
I shall. What is your advice to people who want to follow
Oh.
your path, and as an actor or on stage or film, either way?
Everyone wants to know this all the time. What's your advice to young actors? Oh, well, I suppose that's a reasonable request. I would say rehearse, study, work, do it again, do the scene over 10 times if you have to. Find new things, get it right. Spence, of course, didn't believe in that. And he was certainly no slouch. He said, learn your lines and save it for the camera. He did not want to overdo it. And it's funny, I don't know if you all know this, but there was this wonderful monologue he had to do once. I think it was State of the Union, yes. And they got it going, and he went and he had this magnificent speech. And not a dry eye in the house. All the crew, everyone was moved to tears. Especially the sound guy, because he didn't turn the machine on. And he was petrified. He went to the director and said, oh my God, I didn't do it. Spence said, give me a moment. Turned around, came back, did the whole thing brilliantly right there. Now, I admire that. I like to find it. I like to work it. I say, try it again and again and again.
Now, you did mention a method actor a bit ago. Do you have a method beyond the rehearsal, or?
Well, if I did, I certainly wouldn't advertise it, would I? Whatever works for you within the realm of the play and the director's vision. But I would never try to teach acting or do any of that. No. I am me, and I find it my way. Now, of course, other people might disagree. I think experience is really the best teacher. Just do it. Don't talk about it. Do it.
And you've also had quite a remarkable range of roles in your career, and you're still experimenting with.
I know
you can
what
do,
you're
right?
referring to. I know, because you wrote it in your question. Sylvia Scarlett, I know. People have wondered about me, and I'm only going to say one thing about that. Don't start thinking you know what's right for someone. They might start thinking they know what's right for you.
I'm not sure if our audience is following that.
Well,
do you all
there
know
has been
the role?
speculation always about whether my sexuality. Well, I will just tell you this much, and you'll go home and think about it. I knew a friend once, she's still a friend, who was married and had children. And when she and her husband got to a certain age, 40s, whatever, they both split up. They split up friendly. It was a friendly divorce. He went to a man, she went to a woman. Everyone said, wow. Well, and I made the mistake of saying to her one day, well, you're a lesbian. You became a lesbian. She said, no, I'm not a lesbian. I'm bisexual. And boy, did that turn my nose around. I said, well, there you are. You don't want to assume anything about anybody. It's none of anybody's business, is it? But Sylvia Scarlett was a great film, but we didn't know what we were doing. We started out, and it just didn't work the way we had envisioned it.
I
So
love
be
the
it.
film. It's a great cult classic, by the way. It's really
It
achieved.
is. People have said
in
that.
later years now. It's appreciated for what it is. It actually wasn't what I was referring to, your sexuality before.
Oh,
You jumped
well,
the gun.
I jumped
You
right in,
assumed
didn't
that
I?
I was going to go there, but...
Well, you had a note here
Yes,
about Sylvia
I
Stallman.
did. What I really wanted to know was about the range of roles and some of the one of your previous forays on Broadway, which we would not expect of you. The musical, right? Yes. And I think this goes along with your acting philosophy and what we've heard from you all night, which is that you keep working, you keep trying, you don't say no,
You don't
give
limit
up.
yourself
Right.
because other people will limit you in a heartbeat. I was completely amazed when I was asked to do a Broadway musical. Me! I can't sing, I can't dance, but I was wonderful in it. Coco Chanel. I won the Tony. Now, what if I had said no? Oh, no, I can't do that. Oh, no. If you play by all the rules, you miss all the fun.
Do you want to?
It's getting time. I
Yes,
mean,
it is
remember,
getting
I've
time,
got.
I know.
I work. That's all I do.
Yes, and you have rehearsal tomorrow.
Well,
I've
we've
heard,
got
yes.
to get Act 1, Scene 3 straightened
Yes.
out, so we're not in Act 2, Scene 4.
So, if anyone would like to ask a question of Miss Hepburn, she reserves the right to not answer you if she feels like it. And you may or may not get a satisfactory explanation, but she's willing to venture into this territory. Yes, back here with the...
Did you have any other loves of your life besides Spencer Tracy?
Well, I did. My husband, Luddy. I married Luddy Ogden Smith, and I was so young. You should have seen the size I was when I married Luddy, and I was all of, 21. Luddy and I met after Bryn Mawr, and I adored him. He became a very close family friend. It was just not in the cards for me to be married, and that was it. But Luddy was let's say, my pal. I could talk to Luddy about almost anything. And my parents accepted him into the family.
And you remain close.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, forever. Anyone else?
No
Yes.
one came close to Spence, though.
Yeah, right here.
What was it like working with Tracy at the very end when you did Guess Who's Coming together?
You asked me before my favorite role, Tracy Lord. Of course, I was young. I was at the beginning of my career. That was singularly the most difficult experience I ever had. I was so proud of Spence because he knew we had a deadline, and he made it. We got to the end of the film, and 7 or 8 days later, he was gone. I thought that was a brilliant film. Sidney Poitier was amazing, and my niece was pretty damn good too. As for me, the whole time I was trying to not get my head to move and not cry. I cried through the whole thing. I had to stop and fix my makeup all the time. It was almost impossible to do it. But the result was tremendous. Same thing, do we regret anything? Well, I never should have gone backwards into the Grand Canal in summertime. That was stupid. I was insistent. I said, no, I'm going backwards into the canal. Well, have you ever been to Venice? The canal was quite dirty, and I got an eye infection that plagued me the rest of my life. Now, if I had to go back and do it again, I probably still would have done it, but...
But you might have put some preventive drops in.
Well,
before
I
you
didn't.
did,
I
right?
wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. I wasn't that young then, but I was so swept up in the thrill of just doing it. But I read Meryl Streep said something about that. She had a regret that when she did Out of Africa recently, that she took her children there. And they ended up with some problems. She wanted her young children, to experience Africa, and the husband there didn't want them to go. But Meryl said, "No, she's marvelous." But they got some parasite or something. You have to be very careful. When I did The African Queen, we had to check our glamorous toilet outside in our makeshift dressing room for the green mamba snakes, that they weren't wrapped around the oh.
Anyone else have a question? I saw someone, yes, you had your hand up over here.
Did you get bruised a lot in the Philadelphia story when you were pushed around?
Did I get bruised? No, I caused a few bruises. No. Oh, that film was just marvelous. But, you know, I have to say, too, and again, it goes back to Ernest Thompson, which is where we started. I'm so happy that a man like Ernest Thompson came along and wrote on Golden Pond and the West Side Waltz, because I feel today that the world has just gone mad. And he writes these plays about real, ordinary people who are struggling. And I mean, isn't that, life is tough. No one's going to deny it. Life is a series of hurdles that we have to jump over. And then, oh, look, there's the sun coming through. Oh, where is it? It's gone now. He really presents us with ordinary people. And to me, they are as fascinating as Eleanor of Aquitaine could be. Margaret Mary is just as interesting. So, you know, Jane Fonda, I never liked her. And when I found out she was going to be doing the film, we had a little meeting in New York, and I told her, I don't like you. I didn't like her, but I grew to like her. She proved to me. She was so determined to please her father in this film, and I felt really, I felt sorry for her. As time went on, I got to know her, and I hid in the bushes because I wanted to see. I said to her when we first, you are going to do your own stunts, of course. I mean, look, she had the workout thing. She said, oh, well, I guess I am. And she did, you know, that dive she took. Well, I hid in the bushes to see, and she did it. And I gave her a good for you. I grew to like her very much.
Yes, in the back.
Just following on that very movie and that very performance, I was going to ask you, because you worked with most of the great leading men of your time.
True, John Wayne, absolutely.
Indeed. And Henry Fonda, not so very late in his career. But when you made On Golden Pond with Jane and Henry Fonda, apparently they were enacting not simply what was in the script, but some important themes in their own difficult relationships.
Yes.
What was that like to observe?
I became a sort of a mediator. I did. Of course, Henry Fonda was wonderful, and I really enjoyed playing Ethel to his Norman. I could see that I needed to sort of dance around a little bit because there was a lot of history there that was going on. But it ended up being what you saw on the film, on the screen. It was very heartfelt and very moving, and no one was happier than me to see them sort of be at peace with themselves before he died, because he died shortly after that.
All the way in the back on the wall there.
And bringing up baby.
Oh, David, I've lost my leopard.
Molly was the cat on drugs.
Was the cat on drugs? No, not that I know of. No, we had it all worked out, and there was a trainer there. The leopard was really very well behaved. But we knew, we weren't stupid. We knew that, you know, things can go awry, and when you least expect it, an animal like that can turn on you. No, not that I know of, no. I think if they had drugged the leopard, I would have known, because I would have said, hey, I'm in the scene with you, wake up, you know. No, I was pretty I was fearless, you know. My mother, as a child, there was a big tree in Hartford, and I climbed to the top of it one day. I was probably 4 or 5, and no one knew where I was. And our neighbor came over and said, oh, Kathy's up the tree. She could fall and die. And my mother said, don't tell her, she doesn't know it's dangerous.
Yes, in the center.
One more.
One more, okay, one more.
One more. Make it a good one.
The chemistry between you and Spence, what is it that you like best about him in terms of his character relating to you, and conversely, he toward you?
Well, we didn't like each other very much when we first met. And that had to do with that ridiculous tallness.
Rumor, and also the rumor,
What rumor?
that he thought you might be of a different persuasion.
Oh, that. Oh, well, we're back to that again. All right. No, when I met him, we were, introduced. Now, people thought that I said to him, oh, I hope I won't, my height won't get in the way when we're filming. And then that he said, well, don't worry, I'll cut you down to size. He did not say that to me. He said that to someone else, not in front of me. I think he was initially a little leery of me. Who is this freckly, tall, red-headed woman who wore pants and, But once we got on that set and we started working, the chemistry, people have said, oh, was he, like a father figure to you? First of all, he wasn't that much older than me. He was only 11 years or so. It wasn't like he was 30 years older than me. He just had that, that persona. We were very, very good, what's the word, friends. I mean, I loved him dearly, and I believe he loved me, but he never really told me. We just knew. We didn't have to talk about it very much. And his son and his wife, this was a very delicate situation because he was Catholic and you didn't get divorced, and his son was deaf. So there was a rich and troubled past. I think I came along at a time when he needed a pal, but I also think we played a very good game of tennis on film. It's one of those things that you can't really explain, can you? In life, how and why someone comes into your life and goes out of it too.
So, thank you all very much, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Is it Mr. Neal? Mr. Osborne? Oh,
And you all have to go see your show.
if I may break for a moment, thank you all so much for coming. Obviously, I'm not Katharine Hepburn, I'm Paula Ewin. And I am in rehearsal right now for the wonderful Laura Peterson's play, directed by the brilliant Ludovica Villahauser, which will open at the Cherry Lane. So if you'd like to come and see us, I would be thrilled to see you again. And thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you.